Our name is Ghosts Want You Dead. The stifling heat continues to drive us to hide away in the cool, air-conditioned dark of our houses, emerging only after sundown, like creatures of the night. That is to say, it's still miserable hot. I'm Matthew.
And I'm Rebekah. Is it climate change or vampirism? Who can tell?
I've just been watching my same programs. Have I told y'all about Gwen Torchwood, Bitch Detective?
I think you have told them about it. I know you've told me about it, but
Well, I finished the first season, and it had an annoying and predictable twist. The other unpredictable twist is the show is called The Crow Girl, and it came onto AMC Plus relatively recently. I didn't know it was not a new show. It actually came out a couple of years ago in the UK on Paramount Plus. And after I finished this season, I saw that there was a second season on Paramount Plus, and I got excited because Becca had Paramount Plus, and I got logged into hers, only to find out the second season of that show is only available on UK Paramount Plus, so I'll have to wait another year to watch it.
well, I'm going to get rid of Paramount Plus anyway.
Be further annoyed by the plot twist.
I have mostly been house hunting as I am trying to move and have been derailed in my original plan. I have just been watching a lot of clips of old SVU. I started to watch the SVUs like from the beginning.
You can't possibly do that. There's like
I
30 years
know.
of those.
I know. But then I'm so bad about following series, but I am thinking about going back and doing it because I do enjoy it. Olivia Benson lady is super fun. I like her a lot. I find it fairly relaxing, the formulaic nature of old cop shows.
Actually, there are way less episodes of SVU than there are Dark Shadows, but
Well,
they're an hour long.
yeah, they are long.
So it works out to probably about the same amount of television, but there are 594 episodes of that. I had to look it up. There have been 27 seasons, so my guess was close. Anyway, shall we talk about Dark Shadows?
Yeah, let's do it.
Episode 231. Victoria Winters reminds us that Maggie is being Dracula'd, but right now she's taking a nap. Pull out from a close up on Maggie's vampire bitten neck to a concerned Sam. Joe enters and informs him that the doctor will arrive soon. They puzzle over what might have happened to her and why she was in the cemetery.
Outside, Willie starts playing his Halloween sound effects in the bushes out back, while Maggie does her best moaning Mina Murray. Opening credits.
Over the opening credits, we're told that Dr. Woodward will be played by a new actor. I'm going to give you a spoiler now that I cut out of last week's episode. If you don't want to hear a vague spoiler that's not really a spoiler, skip ahead 30 seconds. We have about 5.5 weeks left with this Burke Devlin before he is recast. So enjoy Burke while you can.
Soak him up, guys.
He's soon to be a shittier Burke Devlin.
Sam shuts the patio doors in Maggie's bedroom and is freaked out about the dogs howling and confused as to why the doors are always open. Joe says maybe she was just wanting some fresh air. The dogs howl again, and Sam wishes he had a gun so he could go shoot 'em. Maggie's moaning along with the dogs howling, and they rush to her bedside, and Joe says she's waking up.
She struggles to sit as Sam tries to comfort her. She asks Sam what happened, and he only tells her that she just got lost and had a bad night. She says all that she remembers is going to sleep. Sam starts to tell her what happened, and Joe prevents him. Like, maybe we don't tell her that right now. Maggie demands to know what happened. She doesn't remember being a jerk to Joe or leaving the house. They are hesitant to tell her where she was found, but eventually they do after she threatens to call Vicky and find out, since they've mentioned that Vicky was there. Maggie asks twice if she was alone in the cemetery. She slowly starts to remember Vicky and Burke standing over her in the cemetery. Maggie complains of being very cold, colder than she's ever been.
The new doctor is there finally checking her out. New doctor looks kind of like a less hot Dr. Daddy, RIP. So I'm calling him Dr. Dorky.
Did you watch that thing I sent you?
Oh no, I didn't watch that.
You need watch it right now.
Okay.
I will cut all that because it will sound crazy, but we just had to pause so I could make Rebecca watch the Scrub Daddy commercial that I sent her earlier today.
Paging Dr. Daddy.
Yeah, because she brought up Dr. Daddy, so I had to make her watch the Dr. Daddy
I
commercial.
do love Dr. Daddy. I
Anyway,
don't love Dr. Dorky, but he grows on me. At first, I have things to say, but Dr. Dorky takes Maggie's temperature and it's 5 below normal. And then he's taking her blood pressure. She is hesitant and distrusting of him, and he clocks that and seems concerned at her distrust and general demeanor.
he also just has a shitty bedside manner. He's like, "You suck. You're
Yeah,
the
no, he's
worst patient.
super
Why are you
rude.
so difficult?"
I actually, like, later, I changed my mind and started calling him Dr. Douchey, and then eventually just gave up giving him a nickname because he does redeem himself a little. But yeah, he's being rude to her, and like he says she's super gray and tense, and he asks, who told you you could go out of your bed, little lady, and berates her for being a bad patient. He asks if she ever sleepwalks and or dreamed of sleepwalking, and she says I can't remember and that she doesn't remember her dreams. Sam tells about how she did remember her death dream in the coffin, and he's like, well, she probably just sleepwalked to the coffin in her dreams, and that's how she got to the cemetery, whatever. Then he looks at her throat and she pulls away like she did before when he was examining her at first. He asks how she got her little bite marks. Again, he's just being real shitty about it and treating her like a dumb little lady instead of a sick person. It's annoying. It was the 60s.
He asks her whether she perhaps stabbed herself accidentally with some costume jewelry in her neck. And she's just like, "Not that I recall."
Yeah, and she
Begs melodramatically for everyone to leave her
yeah,
alone.
she's
And
just fucking done with being poked and prodded and is hollering at everyone.
then she seems to pass out. In the living room, Dr. Woodward informs Joe and Sam that Maggie needs a blood transfusion urgently, and she's too sick to move to the hospital. So they'll do it right there at the Evanses.
Joe says that he's got type A and that he will do it. The doctor says that at first he thought it was a blood disease, but now he's not so sure with the puncture wounds. But either way, until he gets the labs back, he won't know for sure. He's got to do something or she's going to get worse.
The doctor does the transfusion while Maggie writhes and moans.
Yeah, she's meaning it all over the place, and she realizes that she is being blood transfused and starts trying to pull out the needle and is screaming, "No, no, don't take his blood. Don't take his blood." Sam was very freaked out by Maggie trying to pull the needle out of her arm, and the doctor is concerned as well. He's going to give him some hardcore tranquilizers to keep that heifer in bed, and he is very adamant that Maggie should never be left alone and that Sam is going to need to get some help from Joe and other people, and maybe even hire a nurse if he can afford it, but not to leave her alone under any circumstances.
Back in the bedroom, Maggie begins to wake and Joe is at her side. She tells him that she feels strange. She asks where her dad is. She vaguely remembers taking Joe's blood, and this gets her upset, saying that she doesn't want his blood or anybody's blood, and that he ought to just stay out of this. And when he asks, out of what? She's like, nothing.
I would like to note she's also kind of looking like the little girl from The Exorcist in these scenes. Like she very dark eyed and ghoulish, and her hair is a little wild.
Sam returns and sends Joe home for the night and makes a point of locking the French windows. After Joe is gone, Sam sits and lights a cigarette. The timpani and the howling dog indicate Barnabas is on the way. Sam has nodded off in his chair, and Maggie writhes and moans some more to the howling of the dog before sitting as if in a trance, bending from the hip as she sits. And she rises from the bed. She stands over Sam for a moment before heading to the French doors to exit. Discovering them locked, she rattles them loudly in frustration, which wakes Sam, who sort of violently throws her back in the bed as she screams over and over again, "Let me out!" End credits. That was unpleasant. I didn't like to see David What's His Face, who Catherine Lee Scott has alleged is rapey, throwing her on the bed.
I
I
That
didn't
bothered me
like it.
too. I recognize that, in the writing, like she is freaking out and fighting him and he's just trying to, but yeah, the knowledge of that we have sort of puts a damper on that and is concerning.
Episode 232, Victoria Winters checks in for her spooky weather report. A storm is coming. Who knows if she means an actual storm or like a storm of spooky vampire stuff. We'll find out though.
Vampire storm. Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. That's silly.
Maggie wakes in her bed, asking Joe what he's doing there. She asks if she's been sleepwalking again, and he assures her that she hasn't. She tells him that she feels tired, but if she slept through the night, maybe that means she's getting better. Joe clarifies that she slept fitfully until the sun came up, and only after the sun was up did she sleep soundly. He reminds her about her failed escape the previous night, and she does not remember. Opening credits.
Maggie is drinking some coffee, which is nice to see. And she points out some things that I was already thinking, which is, well, I guess I wasn't walking in my sleep when I was trying to get out last night, even though Joe had said she wasn't sleepwalking. Joe wonders if she can try to remember it all like a dream, and Maggie says she just really can't. And he says he's willing to help, and maybe she can try to recall about the cemetery. Exasperated, she says that maybe one of the reasons why she's so tired is everyone keeps asking her all these damn questions. The doctor and Joe and her father, yeah, she's just over it. Joe says they're all just trying to help, and she says that she knows that, but maybe everybody could just let her fucking rest. Joe still thinks that figuring out what is going on is going to be the thing that helps her most, and says, what other solution is there? She says that maybe there isn't a solution, with a very stony, pointed face. And Joe says, well, maybe there isn't some deeper issue and you're really just run down and need rest. She says that she's so tired and he tells her to just ignore him and try to get some more sleep. She tells Joe that he doesn't have to stay, and he's like, I kind of do. He gets closer on her bed like he's going to come give her a kiss, and then is looking at her neck, and she gets self-conscious about her little bite marks and is like, "Well, why are you looking at them?" And he's like, "Well, everyone wonders how you got them." And she asks what he was thinking about, and he's like, "Nothing." And then she's like, "Would you love me if I was a worm?" And he's like, "Yeah." She's all, "They scare you." And he's like, "Well, yeah, it's kind of freaky." And just then the dogs start howling and she gets some big spooky eyes going. And then she says, "Don't worry about me." And he goes in for a kiss and she dodges it and rolls over. He's like, "Well, now you're acting like you're mad at me." And she's like, "Go away, Joe," and starts in on that again. And he's like, "Well, I'm not falling for that twice. And I told your dad I'd stay right here until he gets back." She tells him to go away and she doesn't want him to come here ever again. She doesn't want to see him anymore. And this freaks Joe out. And he's like, "What is making you say this stuff?" And she's like, "I don't want to see you anymore. Go the fuck away." And is persistent in that direction. She says that she has made up her mind and says to go away and not come back. Joe looks hurt, but presumably stays. In the living room, he's on the phone with Vicky asking if she could come because Sam won't be back till later that night and he's got some things he needs to do at work. She said she'll be there right away, and he said that she's just been sleeping and when she's awake, she acts real weird and unlike herself. And Vicky's like, "How so?" And he's like, "I'll tell you when you get here."
Their phone call is interrupted by a crash of thunder. Jerry Maguire warns Vicky about going out in the storm. She is annoyed by him, but also ends up explaining what's going on with Maggie. Jerry's very interested to learn that she was found wandering Eagle Hill Cemetery. He's interested in the mysterious phone call revealing Maggie's spooky whereabouts. Vicky further explains about the neck wound and the blood loss. Vicky asks Jerry to tell Liz where she's gone, and he agrees but asks a last question. He wants to know the doctor's explanation. Vicky says he didn't have one, and she leaves, and we see Jerry immediately head out to the old house to confront Willie. He knocks a few times, but like everyone else, just lets himself in. Willie comes downstairs and finds him, asking curtly what it is that he wants. Jerry wants answers. Willie says that he has none. He's facing away, and Jerry grabs him and turns him around to face him, telling him that he's going to tell him what he wants to know. But then suddenly he sees that Willie has been beaten heavily about the face. And he's suddenly concerned, like, "Oh my God, your pretty face. What happened?" Willie turns away embarrassed, but Jerry gets back on track and asks about the cemetery and why Willie was running off to the cemetery, and why was Maggie wandering around there in the night getting mysterious puncture wounds. And also there's the matter of the hidden crypt jewels and all that. The wounds on Willie's arm after he was visiting the cemetery, and how they might relate to Maggie's neck wounds. Willie insists that he didn't do anything to Maggie, but Jerry puts together that Willie was the mysterious phone caller. Willie denies it and says that he's very busy and Jerry should go home. Jerry warns Willie that if he's up to something, something that might draw police attention, he needs to cut it out or else. Willie vaguely threatens Jerry, who calls him on it and is like, "Is that a threat?" Willie answers, "No, just a warning," and he shoos Jerry away again. On his way out, Jerry asks one last time if it was Willie who made the phone call. He denies it again, but Jerry still doesn't believe him. He promises to find out what Willie is up to. And Willie answers, "Fortunately for you, you're not a man who keeps his promises." And you can tell they had a bad romantic falling out in the past.
Yeah. God, Jerry irritates me though. I don't like him. At the Evanses, Joe is putting on his coat and getting ready to leave and explaining to Vicky Maggie's vacillating states of consciousness and how she just hasn't been herself, and he's really worried and about how she's kicking him out again. And he says something real sad, which is, I was in that room with her all day and I have never missed her more. And I was like, oh, poor Joe. In her room, Maggie is sleeping and begins to stir and calls out for Joe. Vicky comes in and asks how she's feeling. She asks if Joe is gone, and Vicky says yes. She says that she thought she would hang out until her father comes home. Maggie asks if it is night yet, and Vicky says yes. She asks, since she slept a lot today, is she feeling any better? Maggie does say she's feeling better, and Vicky asks if the lightning is bothering her. And Maggie says it's a shame to spoil such beautiful darkness, which is a weird fucking thing to say. And Vicky says that she never got over her childhood fear of the dark. Maggie is like, there's nothing to be afraid of in the dark, and she never realized how much she liked it. She's acting weird and romancing the darkness, and Vicky says she knows it's none of her business, but asks about her telling Joe that she never wants to see him again. And Maggie's like, Joe is gone. And Vicky's like, uh-huh. And Vicky says that she told Joe that Maggie's probably just not feeling well and that she didn't really mean it. But Maggie is like, no, I did mean it. He can't come back here. And Vicky's like, surely you don't mean it. And Maggie's like, Joe must never come back as long as I live, and also don't call me Shirley. And Vicky doesn't understand. Maggie gets up out of bed and walks to the patio doors again. She starts talking about short days in one moment and then long nights. And Vicky says to get back in bed, but she's like, I'm not sick. I feel great. I'm ready to go be a vampire baddie. Vicky walks her back to bed and
She yells at Vicky to leave her alone. Vicky sits in the chair, and Maggie seemingly goes back to sleep, rolling her head back and forth with her lips parted. Later, she rises like a cartoon vampire, and Vicky runs to her side, asking what's the matter. The French windows fly open, revealing a spooky silhouette in the lightning. Clearly, Barnabas or someone with a very similar taste in cloaks.
Barnabas shaped.
Vicky screams and slams the window shut. Maggie remarks that everything's okay now. End credits.
Episode 233. Victoria Winters tells us it is stormy as fuck in Collinsport and also spooky as fuck. Maggie is standing at the patio door waiting for her new boyfriend, but Vicky is like, get the fuck back in bed and covers her up. And that's when I realized that they were replaying the scene from the last time. So once again, we see Maggie toss and turn and sit up and go to the patio and then a Barnabas shadow
Yeah,
all before opening credits. It's all the same. I thought
nothing
it
is
was
added.
different.
Usually
Yeah.
they do. This is what happened last time, but it carries on a little bit. This time it's just the same thing
Yeah,
that
it was
happened.
just the same.
At Collinwood, Carolyn sits in front of the fire in the drawing room. The storm distracts her from the book she's reading. Vicky returns, and Carolyn is anxious. She's glad to see her. Carolyn is scared of the storm. Vicky is also alarmed by the unusual qualities of the storm. The power goes out, and the two light candles. Vicky is startled, thinking she sees something out the window. She explains about the shadowy figure that was clearly Barnabas scaring her at Maggie's house, but then disappearing. Carolyn teases about Vicky's overactive imagination as if they weren't both just embroiled in a bird witch lady immortal being of unknown origin.
Drama. Yeah. No, I thought that too. And I was like, really? Are we still shaming people for believing in the paranatural? Goodness, paranormal?
A flash of lightning produces Barnabas's silhouette in the foyer. Carolyn cries out. Vicky just approaches with a candle asking, "Mr. Collins?" And it is indeed Barnabas. He's popped in for a visit. He just wants to know how Maggie is doing. But then he regales Vicky and Carolyn with tales of scary storms past. He tells of another dark and stormy night where a young girl had to destroy herself to avoid becoming something she did not want to become. He tells of her quarrel with her lover and her running away, pursued by said lover. He says that this girl jumped from the cliff to escape her lover, her body impaled on the rocks. Carolyn and Vicky are like, "Shut up, that's weird." Carolyn is scared and excuses herself to bed. Vicky catches that he references the girl's bloodless body in the story, which she connects to the chupacabra attacks and Willie's blood loss and Maggie's blood loss. Vicky also inadvertently snitches on Willie, saying she received an anonymous phone call about Maggie being in the cemetery. Barnabas warns Vicky about whatever happened to Maggie happening to her, like, quit asking questions or the same shit might happen to you. Jerry Maguire interrupts and Vicky excuses herself to bed. Jerry warns Barnabas that Willie seems to be up to something and he really ought to be sent away. Jerry mentions Willie's frequent visits to Eagle Hill and Maggie also being found there. Barnabas ominously tells Jerry not to worry, that steps will be taken. Barnabas enters the old house, shouting for Willie, raising his cane and screaming, "Willie!" before the end credits.
It was real funny.
Episode 234. Victoria Winters tells us that the night is long, and also Willie is about to get another beating. We join Barnabas and Willie just after another cane beating has been administered. Willie continues to deny making the phone call, and Barnabas stumbles over his lines before the opening credits. Barnabas tells Willie that it is his responsibility to stop Jerry Maguire from coming around. Willie doesn't really know what more he can do in that regard, but on threat of further violence, says that he'll try. At the Evanses, Maggie opens the French windows and looks outside, remarking that the storm is over. Sam is home and Maggie is acting much improved until Sam tries to get her back into the bed, and again she begins to protest. She would prefer to go out in the middle of the night. She feels much better. When Sam won't let her, she tries to sleep, but then starts to freak out a little bit about dreams. And we get a quick shot over to the old house of Barnabas spying on her out of his window into hers.
Wait, where is it?
In the morning,
Oh, I just didn't scroll far enough because I wrote so much.
tell the people what you did.
Well, I was trying to watch the show at home and I set up my TV to play it and then was taking notes on my phone. But I am an elderly woman who often uses voice to text, mainly because my joints hurt a lot. So it's easier to do that. And since I know that would have annoyed Maddie, I've never done it here. How annoying would that be to sit next to someone while you're watching a show who is talking into a phone? But I did that, and pretty much just my notes were long and thick and blow by blows of every scene. Like, and then he did this, and then she did that. And it was real ridiculous. But I will say that in all that, I had a funny joke where Sam was trying to lay her back down, but she's like, I feel better now. Can I go be a vampire, daddy? Can I go be a vampire now, daddy? is is one thing out of that whole mess that I remember.
In the morning at the Evanses, Dr. Woodward has returned. Maggie tells him she feels much better. He agrees that she has improved and she's stoked and is like, sweet, does that mean I can go to work? Which, lame. Whoever wanted to do that?
Right?
Sam says no, and the doctor agrees. Maggie is restless and doesn't want to be cooped up anymore. The doctor checks her vampire bite and says that it seems to be healing nicely, but she must leave it alone. In the living room, Dr. Woodward tells Sam he's waiting on the results of a blood test. Sam wonders if Maggie might need a specialist to deal with her sleepwalking, like perhaps a head shrinker. Dr. Woodward is dismissive of this concern. He then admits that he has no idea about the neck wound.
Later on, Sam is packing up his paint supplies to go paint for his would be son in law of the night. He says he wouldn't go, but Maggie had reminded him that they can't really afford to lose that commission, and Vicky understands. He says that Maggie's been restless and resentful of being stuck in the house, and she doesn't like being babysat. He says how very important it is not to leave her alone, even if she's a total bitch about it. And Vicky's like, no, I got this. I live with Carolyn. I'm used to the mood swings. Maggie's in her room and she's reading a magazine, and Vicky comes in. She asks if her father's gone to paint, and she's like, yeah, but Barnabas shouldn't be making him do this while you're down and out. Maggie is glad that Vicky's here, and Vicky's like, yeah, I'm kind of surprised by that. You've been kicking everybody out. She says that she is feeling better, but then starts to freak out about being made to stay in bed and babysat. Vicky tries to calm her down and offers her warm milk, and she says no, but then she's like, oh, wait, yes, warm milk. I want you to go to the other room for as long as it takes to make me warm milk, and I'll stay right here. But as Vicky leaves, she then swings again and freaks out and is like, wait, don't leave me no matter what I say, even for a minute.
Vicky asks her what she's afraid of, but Maggie can't answer. Over at the old house, Barnabas stands suddenly from sitting for Sam's painting, and he apologizes for interrupting. But again, Sam is like, oh, that's okay. I do have a fiddly little detail to work on if you want to take a walk. A dog howls outside, and Barnabas is like, listen to them, the children of the night. What music they make. Cough, cough. I mean, how beautiful the night seems, which doesn't infringe on any copyrights. Anyway, I'm gonna go bite your daughter while you paint. Is that cool? And Sam grunts assent. Barnabas heads out. The dog howls. The theremin hollers. Willie enters, asking where Barnabas is, if he's gone upstairs, and Sam doesn't know. He's short with Willie and yells at him, telling him never to mention Maggie's name again. Back at the Evanses, Maggie is yelling at Vicky to go home. The dogs go bonkers outside, and Maggie gets meaner. And she does a good job playing mean in this scene, I thought. It was fun.
Yeah.
The dogs start to growl, almost as if at Maggie's urging, and she pretends not to hear them, trying to freak Vicky out. The French windows begin to shake. Maggie yells at Vicky to leave, and the dogs are growling, and the doors are shaking, and Vicky is screaming and freaking out. She eventually runs to the living room to call for help. Maggie rises from bed as Vicky pleads on the phone for Burke to come and save them. The bedroom door slams shut seemingly on its own and will not reopen before the end credits.
Episode 235. Victoria Winters tells us that the vampire is vampiring and about to get Maggie. Vicky is banging on the door and hollering for Maggie, and she can't get it open, and she's really hamming she's really hamming it up in this scene, which is exactly what Matt said as we were watching it. And as like literally as I was typing it, but she's just a hollering and screaming and going crazy. Bert gets there and she's like, thank God. And he breaks the door open and sees something that makes him tell Vicky to stay back and not come in. But she does and looks and screams. And we see a seemingly lifeless or passed out Maggie laying on the bed with fresh vampire bites. Opening credits.
Dr. Woodward has arrived, and Vicky asks how Maggie is and what happened to her. Dr. Woodward said that she's lost a lot of blood again, and her neck wounds are reopened. Dr. Woodward goes on to say that he suspects the wounds might be bite marks, but no, that's crazy. He goes to call an ambulance to have Maggie taken to the hospital. Sam returns with Burke. I guess Burke picked him up at the old house. Sam assesses Maggie's freshly bloodied bite wounds and bellows out that something did this, something inhuman. The doctor returns and sends Vicky and Sam out of the room. He takes Maggie's pulse again. In the living room, Burke tries to force a drink on Sam, but he declines. Vicky explains Maggie scaring her away with phantom dogs and the door locking. Sam is puzzled. Who could possibly want to harm Maggie? The doctor emerges, saying that Maggie needs another transfusion, but nothing more can be done until they get to the hospital. Sam demands odds of survival, but Dr. Woodward won't be specific.
At the Collinsport Hospital, the doctor and Sam are in the room with Maggie. He is checking her over and he says she has a little more color in her cheeks. And Joe shows up and asks how she is. And then Maggie starts coming out of it and starts waking up. She says she's glad that they're both there. Sam asks the doctor if they can have a few minutes to talk to her, and he says just a few because she needs to rest. Sam asks what happened. Maggie says Vicky and she were talking, and then she had a dream and she doesn't remember except that it was terrible and she was so scared. She starts to get worked up again and Sam shuts it down. See, this is where I was at your house and I was taking notes the normal way, so it's more succinct.
I don't know. I think the way Becca takes her notes is crazy. She does it on her phone, which would drive me insane. I have to do it on my computer. I can type on a real keyboard much faster than I can on my phone, and so can she.
Sure. Well, she starts to get worked up again and Sam shuts it down and is like, "Well, we can talk about all this later. Just calm down and rest." And Maggie is apologizing to Joe for picking fights and that it didn't mean anything. And Maggie asks for her father to promise to take care of himself and not drink too much and is like doing her long last goodbyes. And Sam's like, "You'll be well soon." And she's like, "No, I'm gonna die." This freaks Sam out, and he's like, "No, you're going to get well." The doctor and the nurse come back and kick them out, and Maggie says goodbye, and he says not goodbye. And she calls Joe close and says she just wanted to see his face again. And Joe tells her to take care of herself and just get better. It's sweet and sad because Maggie thinks she's going to die.
Later, the nurse and doctor discuss Maggie's care. Dr. Woodward is leaving and instructing the nurse that Maggie mustn't be left alone at all, and the window must stay closed. The nurse is like, weird, but okay, I guess. In the lounge, Sam and Joe chat. Sam cries about Maggie being born in this very hospital. Joe paces. He encourages Sam to go home, but he won't. Sam encourages Joe to go home, but he won't. Back in Maggie's room, she begins to rise again, and the nurse introduces herself, not by name, I think. She just says, I'm your nurse. Maggie asks her to open the window, but the nurse explains she's been explicitly ordered not to. So Maggie starts to performatively freak out about not being able to breathe and being desperate for fresh air or she will die. The nurse is a pushover and is like, okay, then, if it'll shut you up just a little bit, and slightly opens the window. Back in the waiting room, Sam and Joe take turns freaking out. In Maggie's room, she sits and begins to gasp for air. She collapses, and the nurse checks for a pulse, then frantically runs out to the phone. But Dr. Woodward happened to be stepping into the hallway right then anyway, so the nurse explains that Maggie isn't breathing and she can't detect a heartbeat. When they hurriedly enter the room in a panic, the window is now wide open and Maggie is gone. The nurse is like, she was dead. Where'd she get off to? A dog howls outside. End credits. Are
It's
we
pretty
having
good.
fun?
Oh yeah, it's good. It's getting pretty crazy.
Oh, you think it's getting crazy now? Just you wait a minute.
But yeah, I'm really enjoying the whole spooky vampire bit, and Maggie's been doing a good job looking crazy and spooky.
Well, now that we have read Catherine Lee Scott's loosely fictionalized version of Being on Dark Shadows, where she basically complains about all of the other cast members, if we are to believe that most of that is just thinly veiled on-set gossip, all of the actors were pissed when this started to happen. They were like, a fucking vampire show? No, we're serious actors. And I am looking for hints of that in the performances now that I know that they're annoyed about it
Do
and
you feel
think it's
like
silly.
do you feel like you've seen any?
Not really, except Vicky and Maggie are really kind of overdoing it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're doing that on purpose, like, oh, this is the direction you want to go. Sure.
Well, I'm glad they went in that direction because it's a hoot. Jonathan Frid's creepy little face that feels like it shouldn't be hot, but then it is hot. Like, I don't know. He looks great. I love
Those
him.
are the best kind of faces. The
That's
ones where
true.
you're like, is he hot? Yes, he is.
Yeah. I
Well,
Yep.
do we have anything else to say about those? I
I
missed Liz.
think so. Yeah, I miss any time she's gone because she's great. I liked Carolyn's fancy nightgown. I think you did her part when she came in, so I didn't mention it. But she was wearing this like gilded gown looking thing.
Yeah, she was barely there. She only
Yeah.
had the one scene. She has something very fun coming up that I'm not going to spoil for you, but it is the funniest thing I have seen in some time.
Okay. Well, that's exciting.
And it's coming soon. Follow us on Instagram and Threads and YouTube and Blue Sky and Reddit at Ghosts Want You Dead.
Yeah. This program is brought to you by Amy, Austin, and Jacob. Thank you guys.
Thanks.
If you also would like to support us, we would sure appreciate it. And you can do so by going to our Patreon.
Patreon.com/Ghosts Want You Dead.
Yep.
Rebekah has never said it. She always says Ghosts Want You Dead at patreon.com.
Yeah, I don't know how things work. I'm gonna take a page from the patriarchy and weaponize
Yeah, Becca does the
incompetence.
weaponized incompetence. She's like, oh, I
I
don't know
don't
how
know
gadgets or anything work.
Also, I really don't in a lot of ways, but I
Well, I
know I
mean,
could figure it out. But I also am just forgetful about stuff like that.
she has worked some pretty computery jobs.
Yeah, no, it's true.
We want to continue talking about things that are going to happen in the future of the show. So we're going to hang up now.
We love you.